The billionaire almost didn't go inside. He stood in the back seat of his black luxury sedan, watching rain slide down the tinted window in slow, uneven lines, and for the first time in years, Ethan Kingsley hesitated. Not because of a deal. Not because of money. But because his daughter's small hand was gripping his sleeve just a little too tightly. "Daddy," Ava said softly, her voice careful, like she was afraid of breaking something fragile. "Are we really eating here?" Ethan forced a smile and nodded. "Yes, sweetheart. I promised." Ava looked out the window at the glowing restaurant sign, its golden letters reflecting against the wet pavement. The place screamed wealth, valet parking, glass walls, warm lights, people dressed in clothes that probably cost more than some families made in a month. Ava shifted in her seat. What if they stare again? That single sentence hit Ethan harder than any headline ever had. He reached over and gently squeezed her hand. If they do, that's their problem. Not yours. But deep down he knew the truth. They always stared. The driver stepped out and opened the door. The rain had slowed to a mist, and Ethan stepped onto the pavement, straightening his coat before helping Ava out. She wore a simple blue dress and white sneakers. Nothing flashy. Ethan had stopped dressing her in designer clothes years ago. He wanted her to feel normal. Or at least as close to normal as a billionaire's daughter could get. Ava adjusted the small medical brace beneath her dress, her movements practiced, quiet. Ethan noticed. He always noticed. He offered his arm, and she took it, leaning into him as they walked toward the entrance. Inside, the restaurant buzzed with low conversation and soft music. The hostess smiled automatically, until her eyes landed on Ava's brace. The smile flickered. Just for a second. Long enough for Ava to notice. Ethan noticed too. "Good evening," the hostess said, her voice still polite, but tighter now. "Reservation?" "Yes," Ethan replied calmly. "Kingsley." Her eyes widened. "Oh, of course. Right this way, sir." They were led through the dining area, past couples sipping wine and laughing, past businessmen talking numbers, past a family that went quiet when Ava walked by. Ethan felt his jaw tighten. They were seated near a window. Ava climbed into her chair carefully, wincing just slightly before settling. Ethan pretended not to see, because Ava hated when he hovered. A waiter appeared with menus. "Can I start you with something to drink?" he asked, his eyes already drifting away from Ava. "Sparkling water for me," Ethan said. "Then, apple juice," Ava said quickly, smiling up at the waiter. The waiter nodded and left without another glance. Ava looked down at her menu, but she wasn't reading it. "They're staring," she whispered. Ethan followed her gaze. Across the room, at a small table near the wall, sat a woman and a little boy. The woman looked exhausted. Not the kind of tired sleep fixed, but the deep, bone-heavy exhaustion of someone who carried the world alone. She wore a plain sweater and jeans, her hair pulled back messily, dark circles under her eyes. The boy, maybe 7 or 8, sat beside her, swinging his legs slightly, clutching a cheap toy car. They weren't staring with curiosity. They were staring with pain. The woman quickly looked away when Ethan noticed. The boy didn't. His eyes stayed locked on Ava's brace, then slowly traveled up to her face. Ava stiffened. Ethan felt a familiar anger rise in his chest, but it wasn't aimed at the boy. It was aimed at the world that made children learn pity before kindness. "It's okay," Ethan murmured. "Eat your dinner." Ava nodded, but her appetite was already fading. Across the room, Maya Thompson wished the ground would swallow her whole. She hadn't planned to come here. She hadn't even known where she was going when she walked in. All she knew was that her son, Noah, hadn't eaten a proper meal all day, and the small diner they usually went to had been closed for renovations. Rain had started pouring, Noah was tired, and Maya was out of options. So when she saw the restaurant doors open, she hesitated, and then walked in anyway. The hostess had looked at her like she didn't belong. Maya already knew she didn't. But Noah's stomach had growled loudly, and she couldn't turn back. They'd been seated quickly, but not before Maya caught the hostess whispering something to a waiter. Maya pretended not to notice. She was good at pretending. Now, sitting there, Maya wished she'd left. The prices on the menu made her heart race. She'd calculated everything in her head already, one shared entree, water only, no dessert. She'd make it work. She always did. Then she noticed the girl. The brace. The way the girl leaned slightly toward her father, like she was used to protecting herself. Maya's chest tightened. She didn't mean to stare. She really didn't. But something about that child felt painfully familiar. Noah leaned closer to Maya and whispered, "Mom, is she hurt?" Maya swallowed. She might have something that makes it harder to walk. Noah frowned. "Does it hurt?" "Sometimes," Maya said softly. Noah looked thoughtful. Then, without thinking, he smiled across the room at Ava. Ava flinched and looked away. Noah's smile faded. Maya quickly placed a hand on his arm. "Don't stare, baby." "I wasn't," Noah said quietly. "I was just saying hi." Maya's eyes stung. The waiter returned with their drinks. He placed Ethan's water down carefully, then Ava's juice. He placed Maya's water down last, a little harder than necessary. "Are you ready to order?" he asked Ethan. Ethan nodded. "Yes." As Ethan ordered, Maya listened despite herself. He didn't even look at the prices. He asked questions about ingredients, about preparation, about what Ava might enjoy. When the waiter turned to Maya, his tone changed. "And you?" he asked, already impatient. Maya hesitated. "We'll just have one order of the pasta. And maybe," she glanced at Noah, "an extra plate please." The waiter raised an eyebrow but wrote it down. "Anything else?" "No," Maya said quietly. The waiter walked away. Noah looked up at her. "Mom, that girl looked sad." Maya nodded. "Sometimes people are sad even when they have everything." Noah frowned. "Why?" Maya didn't have an answer. Ethan watched the interaction from across the room. He saw the way Maya's shoulders sagged, the way she counted something on her fingers under the table. He saw the boy's eyes light up when the waiter brought bread, then dim when Maya subtly slid most of it toward him. Ethan had grown up poor. Really poor. He knew those signs. Ava noticed too. "Daddy," she whispered, "that boy looks hungry." Ethan followed her gaze again. "Yes," he said slowly. "He does." Ava hesitated, then said, "Can I give him my bread?" Ethan paused. He looked at his daughter, at her thin arms, at the way she always tried to make herself smaller so the world wouldn't notice her. And suddenly, something inside him shifted. "Of course you can," he said gently. Ava's face lit up. She carefully stood, gripping the edge of the table for balance, and Ethan was already halfway out of his chair before she even took a step. "I've got you," he murmured. Together, they walked across the room. Maya looked up in surprise as they approached. "I'm sorry," Ethan said politely. "I hope we're not interrupting." Maya shook her head quickly. "No, not at all." Ava held out the bread basket shyly. "I have too much. Would you like some?" Noah's eyes widened. Maya's instinct was to refuse. Pride rose automatically. But Noah's hopeful expression crushed it. "Are you sure?" Maya asked. Ava nodded eagerly. "Thank you," Maya said, her voice thick. "That's very kind of you." Noah smiled at Ava. "Thank you." Ava smiled back. This time, she didn't flinch. Ethan watched the two children exchange that small moment of kindness, and something cracked open inside his chest. For a second, the room faded. It was just two kids. No labels. No money. No stares. Just humanity. They returned to their table, and Ava sat down, glowing. "Daddy," she whispered. He smiled. Ethan smiled too. Yes, he did. Dinner continued, but Ethan's attention kept drifting back to the other table. He noticed the way Maya barely ate. The way she kept checking her phone, anxiety etched into her face. The way Noah tried to eat slowly, like he didn't want the meal to end. When dessert menus arrived, Maya shook her head immediately. "No dessert, sweetie," she said gently. "That's okay," Noah said, though disappointment flashed across his face. Ethan watched all of it. And then quietly, without telling Ava, he stood. He walked over to the waiter and spoke in a low voice. "I'd like to take care of that table's bill," he said, nodding toward Maya and Noah. "And add dessert. Whatever they want." The waiter blinked. "Sir, Are you sure? Yes. Very well. Ethan returned to his seat. Ava noticed his expression. What did you do? He smiled mysteriously. Something unbelievable. Across the room, Maya had no idea that her life was about to change. And neither did Ethan. Because this dinner, this small rainy night decision, was only the beginning. Maya realized something was wrong the moment the waiter returned. Not wrong in a bad way. Wrong in the way that made your stomach tighten before your mind caught up. The waiter placed 2 dessert plates on the table. Chocolate cake. Thick, rich, drizzled with sauce. Then a scoop of vanilla ice cream beside Noah's plate. Maya blinked. I'm sorry, she said quickly. We didn't order. They're already paid for, the waiter replied. Maya froze. Paid for? The waiter nodded toward Ethan's table without saying his name. The gentleman over there. Maya followed his gesture. Ethan met her eyes and gave a small, respectful nod. Not smug. Not proud. Just kind. Her chest tightened. Oh no, Maya said softly, standing halfway. That's really not necessary. I can't. The waiter had already walked away. Noah stared at the dessert like it might disappear if he blinked. Mom, he whispered, is this for real? Maya sat back down slowly, her hands trembling. Yes, she said, barely audible. I think it is. Across the room, Ava watched closely, her chin resting on her hands. Daddy, she whispered, she looks like she's going to cry. Ethan nodded. Sometimes kindness surprises people. Maya hesitated before lifting her fork. She took a small bite, then paused, overwhelmed by how good it tasted, and by how long it had been since she'd allowed herself something unnecessary. Noah, however, dug in with joy. This is the best day ever, he announced, chocolate already on his cheek. Maya laughed softly, a sound she barely recognized anymore. But her relief was short-lived. She checked her phone again. Still no missed calls. Still no messages. Her sister was supposed to meet her hours ago. Something wasn't right. Maya stood and approached Ethan's table cautiously, her heart pounding. I just wanted to say thank you, she said quietly. You didn't have to do that. Ethan stood as well, respectful, careful not to intimidate. I wanted to, he said simply. Maya glanced at Ava, who smiled shyly. She's lovely, Maya said. Ava beamed. Your son is nice. Maya smiled back. He tries. There was an awkward pause. Maya cleared her throat. I don't usually accept help from strangers. Ethan nodded. Neither do I. That surprised her. She studied him more closely now. His calm confidence. His gentle attention toward his daughter. The way Ava leaned toward him without fear. You seem like a good father, Maya said before she could stop herself. Ethan swallowed. I try. Every day. Ava reached for his hand. Daddy is the best. Maya felt something crack in her chest. I should get back, Maya said quickly. Thank you again. As she turned away, Ethan spoke. If you don't mind me asking, he said carefully, are you waiting for someone? Maya hesitated, then nodded. My sister. She was supposed to pick us up. She's not answering. Ethan glanced outside. The rain had picked up again. Do you have a way home? He asked. Maya hesitated. Pride rose, sharp and familiar. I'll figure it out, she said. Ethan didn't push. Okay, he replied. If you need anything, we're here. Maya returned to her table, but her appetite was gone again. Anxiety twisted in her stomach. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. The restaurant began to empty. Noah yawned, his head drooping. Maya checked her phone again. Nothing. She stood and gathered their things. Ready, buddy? She asked, forcing cheer into her voice. Noah nodded sleepily. They walked toward the exit. Ethan watched them go. Something didn't sit right. Ava tugged his sleeve. Daddy, are they okay? Ethan didn't answer right away. He stood. Wait here, he told Ava gently. I'll be right back. He caught up to Maya near the door. Maya, he said. She turned, surprised. Yes. You mentioned your sister, Ethan said. Is she close? Maya sighed. She was. She should have been here by now. Do you feel safe getting home? Ethan asked. Maya looked at the rain-soaked street. Then at Noah, half asleep on his feet. Honesty won. No, she admitted quietly. Ethan nodded once. Let me help. Maya stiffened. I don't want charity. This isn't charity, Ethan said calmly. It's concern. She studied his face, searching for judgment, pity, superiority. She found none. Just sincerity. After a long moment, she nodded. Okay, she said softly. They walked back to Ethan's table. Ava looked relieved when she saw them. Are you coming with us? Ava asked. Just for a little bit, Maya said gently. Outside, the driver opened the door to the sedan. Maya froze. Oh, she said quietly. I didn't realize. Ethan caught her hesitation. It's just a car, he said lightly. But Maya knew better. No one with just a car lived like this. Still, she helped Noah into the seat. The ride was quiet at first. Noah fell asleep almost instantly, his head resting against the window. Ava watched him, thoughtful. He looks tired, she whispered. He's had a long day, Maya said. So have you, Ava replied. Maya smiled sadly. You're very perceptive. Ava shrugged. Daddy says hard things leave marks you can't always see. Ethan glanced at his daughter in surprise. She met his eyes seriously. He smiled. They reached Maya's apartment building 20 minutes later. It was old. Cracked concrete. Flickering lights. Maya braced herself for judgment. Ethan didn't react. He stepped out, helped Noah carefully, and walked them to the door. Thank you, Maya said again. For everything. Ethan nodded. You don't owe me anything. She hesitated, then asked, Can I ask you something? Of course. Why? She said. Why help us? Ethan thought of Ava's brace. Of the stairs. Of the silence. Because once, he said slowly, someone looked at my daughter the way the world looks at your son. Maya's eyes softened. And I wished someone would just see her. She nodded, understanding more than he knew. Inside the apartment, Maya tucked Noah into bed. He stirred. Mom. Yes, baby. That girl? Ava, he murmured. She smiled at me. Maya kissed his forehead. Yes, she did. Noah smiled in his sleep. Maya stood in the doorway for a long moment. Then she sat at the small kitchen table and finally let herself cry. Downstairs, Ethan watched the light turn off in her apartment window. Ava leaned against him. Daddy, she said quietly, are we going to see them again? Ethan didn't know the answer. But something told him their lives were already tangled. Yes, he said finally. I think we are. As the car pulled away, Maya didn't know that the man who helped her tonight was one of the most powerful people in the city. And Ethan didn't know that Maya's past held a secret that would soon turn his world upside down. The night closed in around them. But the story was only halfway told. Maya didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the restaurant lights, Ava's careful smile, and the way Ethan looked at her, not with pity, but with recognition. Like he saw something familiar in her struggle. She hated how much that unsettled her. At 3:42 a.m., her phone finally rang. Maya? Her sister Lena's voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I was in an accident. I'm okay, but my phone. Relief flooded Maya so fast she had to sit down. It's okay, Maya whispered. We're okay. After hanging up, Maya stared at the ceiling, thinking about how close she'd come to being stranded with no one to call. And how a stranger had stepped in. Across the city, Ethan sat in his study, staring at a report on his tablet without reading a word. Ava slept upstairs, her nightlight casting soft stars across her walls. Ethan replayed the evening over and over. Maya's tired eyes. Noah's quiet hunger. Ava's instinctive kindness. He'd spent years building empires, but that dinner had shaken him more than any hostile takeover ever had. His phone buzzed. A message from his assistant. Did you want to proceed with the board dinner tomorrow night? Ethan typed back. Cancel it. Family comes first. He hesitated, then added another message. And find out everything you can about Maya Thompson. Quietly. He set the phone down, guilt tugging at him. He hated using power this way, but his instinct screamed that Maya's story mattered. The next afternoon, Maya walked Noah to school. He skipped beside her, unusually cheerful. "Mom," he said, "do you think Ava goes to school too?" Maya smiled. "Probably. Do you think she has friends?" The question pierced her. "I hope so," Maya said softly. Noah nodded, then ran ahead to join his classmates. Maya stood there for a moment, watching him disappear into the building, before heading to her job at the grocery store. She was restocking shelves when her manager approached. "Maya," he said stiffly, "you have a visitor." Her heart jumped. At the front of the store stood Ethan. In jeans. No suit. No entourage. Just him. Maya froze. "What is he doing here?" she whispered. Ethan spotted her and smiled awkwardly. "Hi," he said. Maya approached cautiously. "Is everything okay?" "Yes," Ethan replied. "I hope I'm not overstepping." "You're not," she said, though she wasn't entirely sure. "I was wondering," he continued, "if you and Noah would like to join Ava and me this weekend. Just something simple." Maya hesitated. Every instinct told her to protect her space, her boundaries. But another voice, quieter, braver, whispered maybe. "Okay," she said finally. Ethan's relief was visible. That Saturday, they met at a small park. No luxury. No staff. Just sunlight, grass, and laughter. Noah and Ava sat on a blanket, coloring together. "I like your crayons," Ava said. "I like your shoes," Noah replied. They grinned at each other. Maya watched from a nearby bench. "She's happy," Ethan said softly beside her. Maya nodded. "So is he." Silence settled between them, comfortable this time. "Can I ask you something?" Maya said. "Anything." "Why didn't you tell me who you are?" Ethan smiled sadly. "Because I wanted to know if you'd still talk to me if you did." Maya studied him. "And would I?" "I don't know," he admitted. "But I wanted this," he gestured toward the kids, "to be real." Maya exhaled slowly. "I appreciate that." Later that afternoon, while the kids chased pigeons, Ethan's phone buzzed again. A message from his assistant. "You need to see this." Ethan opened the file. His breath caught. The report detailed Maya's past. Her husband. The accident. The lawsuit that vanished. The company involved. Kingsley Industries. His company. Ethan's chest tightened painfully. He looked at Maya, laughing softly as Noah tried to keep up with Ava. Guilt slammed into him like a wave. He stood abruptly. "Maya," he said, his voice strained. "We need to talk." She sensed the shift immediately. "What's wrong?" He swallowed. "There's something I didn't know. Something I should have." They sat on the bench. Ethan spoke carefully, each word heavy. "Your husband," he said. "He died in a construction accident." Maya stiffened. "Yes. That site," Ethan continued, "was owned by my company." The world tilted. Maya's ears rang. "No," she whispered. "Yes," Ethan said quietly. "And the case, it was settled quietly. I wasn't directly involved, but your name is on everything," Maya finished bitterly. Tears filled her eyes. "You don't get to show up now," she said, her voice shaking. "You don't get to be kind and then tell me you're connected to the worst day of my life." Ethan's throat closed. "I know," he said. "And I'm so sorry." She stood, trembling. "Sorry doesn't raise a child alone," she snapped. "Sorry doesn't bring him back." Noah and Ava noticed the tension and slowed. "Mom," Noah called. Maya turned away, wiping her face. "We're leaving." Ethan watched them go, pain carving deep lines into his face. That night, Ava knocked softly on Ethan's study door. "Daddy?" she asked. "Yes, sweetheart." "Did we do something wrong?" Ethan knelt in front of her. "No. Not at all." "Then why is Maya sad?" Ethan struggled for words. "Sometimes," he said, "adults carry pain for a long time." Ava nodded slowly. "Can we help?" Ethan's eyes burned. "I don't know how," he admitted. Ava thought for a moment. "Then we try." The next day, Maya received a letter. Handwritten. No logos. No lawyers. Just words. I am not asking for forgiveness. I am not asking for understanding. I am taking responsibility. Inside was a check. And a note. This doesn't erase anything. But it's the beginning of what I owe you. Maya stared at the number. Her breath caught. It was enough to change everything. She folded the letter carefully. Then she did something unexpected. She walked to the park. Ava saw her first and waved excitedly. Ethan stood slowly. Maya approached, her face calm but resolute. I didn't come for the money, she said. I know, Ethan replied. I came because my son deserves peace, she continued. And so does your daughter. She took a breath. We move forward, not backward. Ethan nodded, emotion choking him. Thank you, he whispered. Maya looked at Ava. Your kindness mattered, she said gently. Never lose that. Ava smiled. And in that moment, for lives shifted onto a new path. But the biggest test still lay ahead. The morning after Maya went to the park, the city woke up unaware that something rare had happened. Not a deal. Not a scandal. Not a headline. A choice. Ethan sat alone at the long dining table in his home, untouched breakfast growing cold in front of him. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating a space that had once felt impressive and now felt hollow. For the first time in years, money had not given him control. And strangely, he felt lighter. Ava entered quietly, moving with more confidence than she used to. Therapy had helped. So had hope. Daddy, she said, climbing into the chair beside him. Are we still going to see Noah today? Ethan smiled faintly. If Maya says yes. Ava nodded seriously. I hope she does. So do I, Ethan replied. At that exact moment, Maya stood in her kitchen, staring at the check again. It lay flat on the counter, heavy with possibility and memory. She had never held that much money in her hands before. Not even close. She thought of overdue bills. Of Noah's school shoes with worn soles. Of the nights she cried silently so her son wouldn't hear. Then she thought of her husband. Of the call. Of the silence afterward. She folded the check and placed it carefully into an envelope. Not hidden. Not burned. Not celebrated. Just acknowledged. Mama? Noah asked from the doorway. Are we still going to the park? Maya turned and smiled. Yes, baby. At the park, Ava ran ahead this time, slower than most kids but determined. Noah followed, laughing. Ethan and Maya sat on opposite ends of the same bench, the space between them filled with unspoken history. After a few minutes, Maya spoke. I thought about leaving, she admitted. Taking the money and disappearing. Ethan nodded. I would have understood. But then I realized something, Maya continued. Running doesn't heal anything. It just makes the pain quieter. Ethan looked at her, listening. I don't forgive you, she said plainly. Not yet. I don't expect you to, Ethan replied. But, she added, I see the man you are now. And I see your daughter. She paused. And I don't want our children to inherit our wounds. Ethan's throat tightened. Neither do I, he said. They watched as Noah helped Ava climb a small step. She stumbled. He steadied her. No one laughed. No one stared. It felt like a miracle all on its own. Weeks passed. The months. Ethan kept his word. Not with press releases. Not with public apologies. With action. He reopened the investigation into the construction accident that killed Maya's husband. Independent reviewers. Full transparency. Accountability that went far beyond legal obligation. Executives resigned. Policies changed. Families once ignored were contacted, personally. Some accepted. Some didn't. Ethan respected both. Maya returned to school part-time, studying social work. The money helped, but more than that, the support did. Childcare. Counseling. Stability. Noah started sleeping through the night. Ava grew stronger. And somewhere in the middle of it all, Ethan and Maya began talking. Not about the past, but about the present. One evening, they sat in Maya's small living room, sharing takeout while the kids built a pillow fort. I never wanted to be rich, Ethan said quietly. I just wanted to feel safe. Maya nodded. I never wanted to be strong. I just didn't have a choice. They shared a small smile. One night, Ava asked a question that stopped everyone cold. Are we a family? She asked, her voice tentative. The room went silent. Ethan looked at Maya. Maya looked at the kids. She chose her words carefully. We're people who care about each other, she said gently. And sometimes that's how families begin. Ava considered that. I like that, she said. So did Noah. The world, of course, eventually found out. It always did. A photo leaked. A name dropped. A connection traced. Headlines followed. But this time, the story wasn't about power. It was about responsibility. Ethan stood at a podium months later, cameras flashing, Ava seated proudly in the front row beside Maya and Noah. I once believed success meant winning, Ethan said into the microphone. I was wrong. The room was silent. Success means repair. It means humility. It means choosing people over profit, especially when no one is watching. He stepped away from the microphone. Ava stood and clapped. The crowd followed. Later that night, as they walked to the car, Maya turned to Ethan. You know, she said, this doesn't erase what happened. Ethan nodded. I know. But it does something else, she continued. It makes the future lighter. Ethan smiled. Thank you for not turning away, he said. Maya looked at him steadily. Thank you for stepping forward. At home, Noah fell asleep clutching his toy car. Ava fell asleep smiling. Ethan stood by the window watching the city lights. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel like a billionaire. He felt like a father. And somewhere in a quiet apartment across town, Maya wrote in a notebook something she hadn't done in years. Healing doesn't come from forgetting. It comes from choosing again. The next morning, Ethan took Ava to dinner. Not at a luxury restaurant. At a small place down the street. No stairs. No whispers. Just food, laughter, and the quiet joy of being seen. And somewhere out there, a single mom slept peacefully, knowing her son would grow up in a world slightly more just than the one she inherited. All because one night, a billionaire took his daughter to dinner and chose to do the unbelievable.